This story reveals about a king of Mathura who had no child, and so he was sad. His prime minister was very loyal and close to him and suggested to pray and believe more in God. One day they were moving along the side of a forest and they heard the weeping sound of a child. They approached and found a newly born child laying on mujh bushes. The minister picked up the child and told the king, "Finally God heard you." The king adopted and scattered the news with a manipulation that the queen gave birth to a child. This truth was known to the king, queen, and prime minister, and none else. The child was named Munz. After a couple of years, the queen gave birth to her real boy child, very lovely, and the second son was called Sinhal. But the king never differentiated between them, and Munz had a great love for his younger brother Sinhal. Both had grown up and got married at their respective times. After the death of the king and queen, Munz was crowned and became the king of Mathura, and the old minister continued to be a prime one. All were well and peaceful in the reign with great love among the public. Munz had no child while Sinhal had two kids 10 and 12 years old. All royal families had great love and respect for each other. In the reign of Mathura, there was a tradition to organize an enjoyable week with a public crowd every year. As usual, at the due date, all kinds of sports and other recreational activities were getting on. All were seated along with the royal families and observing. During the sports activities, King Munz's attention deviated to see an untimely scene outside of the recreation ground where an oil extractor was going with an iron rod on his shoulder in an unmannered way. The king did not like his attitude, and so he was called. Arriving there, the king spoke with a bad tone to him. "Why are you behaving like a wrestler and keeping yourself within the boundary?" Understanding the tone of the king, oil extractor reacted that "I am now a good wrestler. If you do not believe, get a test trial." Saying this, he engraved the iron bar into the soil by force with one hand, and that rod penetrated the soil by nearly 3 feet deep. He said to the king, "Ask your wrestlers to take it out by one hand. If done, I will accept my defeat." The king called the wrestlers to take it out. A few tried but failed, and others did not come forward to save their images. So many calls were made, but nobody dared to move, even asking for the use of both hands, but badly failed. Before the announcement by the king about the result of the outcome, Prince Sinhal stood up from his seat and proceeded toward the penetrated bar in the soil. Prince took out the iron bar with the help of his 2 fingers, and again it was engraved into the soil deeply by the prince with one hand. The oil expeller was asked to get it out, and he badly failed and was not scalable a bit even using both hands. On calling people again for participation, and no one came forward. Just before the declaration, Prince Singhal's children asked the king for permission to take it out, but the king did not allow them to get involved in being children. Insisting repeatedly, king allowed them. Both sat across the bar and tied the bar with their chutia. With a little jerk to their chutias, the iron bar got out. There was a big clapping and applause for the children's strength unbelievable. After the cover of an enjoyable week, King Munz went into deep thought for seeing the unique strength of all three. He was restless, and that created a birth of cruel views toward them. To follow cruelty, the Prime Minister was called in and an order was given for killing both nephews early. The PM was shocked to hear, who had never thought of it. He softly advised the king for holding it as his brother, and nephews had great respect and regard for you in all manners. They can be excused if did any mistake. PM, you have seen their enormous power, and they can take hold of the reign at any time from my children. So imply the order. The PM was in a problematic situation and thought about the life of a genuine Prince Singhal and family are at stake. If he speaks the truth, who will believe him? He wanted to save the life of children. He contacted them and explained the whole issue. He asked to leave the reign and go away to far-off places. The children became very angry and thought we had loved him so much, and in return, he wanted our life, very ridiculous. Both decided to kill the king, but after a deep reflection on the game of karmas. They had given up the idea of killing and decided to leave the reign to end up the enmities that had for a long time once and for all. They said the story and asked his father Singhal for permission to become saint. Instead, Singhal ordered his children to kill the king. How he can dare to slay my children? The children did not prepare to accept the views and insisted on permission to go to the forest. Finally, Prince Singhal permitted them with heavy tears. Both left the kingdom and proceeded toward the forest. King Munz was very delighted, and the unknown fear had gone, and so had the end of enmity. One hurdle got removed, and now King Munz wanted to remove his younger brother too, but how? He attempted all sorts of tricks to kill him but failed. A wild elephant was brought in to kill the Prince Singhal, but with his powerful punch, the elephant could not face him and ran away. So the king was worried about how to kill him. He thought to make Prince's body useless for the purposes. Better to tarnish his eyes forever. A blind person would be useless against fighting. His eyes were charred by the red-hot bar while he was taking rest with closed eyes after the exercise by his faithful attendant. King Munz was now comfortable, and fear of losing his reign had taken off. The real heir became the victim of the king, and Prince Singhala was restless about his future and family welfare.